Tonight, the wild card tips his hand.
And the decision to proceed now with the President Trump's nominee is also consistent with history.
Mitt Romney essentially ensures a Senate vote on any presidential Supreme Court nominee.
We will.
As the battle to fill Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat heats up. Plus, the president takes on China in a virtual General Assembly at the United Nations. And
the way that we're going to stop the scourge of drug trafficking and opioid addiction is to work together.
The DOJ announces a major crackdown on worldwide opioid trafficking. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
The battle lines over the replacement of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg growing clearer and brighter. Good evening and welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. President Trump says he will name his nominee Saturday. And tonight, a key Republican senator says he is on board with moving the process forward.
That's right. And that support throws a wrench into the Democrats' attempt to stall the Supreme Court nomination, arguing that it's too close to the election and breaks the GOP's own 2016 rule. CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy is here now. Ben, I understand that list is down to less than half a dozen candidates, but the White House appears to be circling just a few of those names.
Yeah, John, Jenna, you're right. President Trump says his list is down to just 5 candidates, and we are hearing that Amy Coney Barrett is leading. In fact, she's already met with President Trump at the White House.
Who would like to see a woman justice of the Supreme Court?
And Republicans say they will have the votes to confirm the pick. Today, Senator Mitt Romney saying he'll support a floor vote for that nominee.
What I intend to do is to proceed with the consideration process, and if a nominee actually reaches the floor, that I will vote based upon the qualifications of that nominee.
President Trump tweeted that he'll announce his Supreme Court nominee on Saturday.
President Trump will fulfill his duty. President Trump will appoint the next Supreme Court justice. President Trump will protect religious liberty. President Trump will protect our freedom of speech. President Trump will protect our Second Amendment.
But Democrats want the vote to wait until after the election, threatening to delay the process, even possibly with impeachment.
They don't want to be bound by the Constitution, and that goes from everything to packing the Supreme Court with liberal judges that will not get in the way of their legislative plans.
The Democratic leader announced on the floor that if the Senate holds a vote on the forthcoming nomination, it would, quote, spell the end of this supposedly great deliberative body.
Today, McConnell said it's his job and duty to hold a vote on Trump's nomination.
Bear in mind, none of them assert this majority would be breaking any Senate rule by holding this vote. It's just that our Democratic friends worry they might not like the outcome.
Now, with 42 days until the election, there is time for the Senate to fill the seat. We are also hearing that Supreme Court candidate Barbara LaGoya is set to meet with Trump on Friday, just one day before he is set to make his pick. John, Jenna?
All right, CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy. Joining us now is CBN chief political analyst David Brody. David, thanks for being with us. All of these candidates or these nominees, do any of them have concerning vulnerabilities that could throw a wrench into the process for them?
Well, let's start with Amy Coney Barrett. Here's the short answer. No. She's been highly vetted. And in a normal fight, a normal Supreme Court nomination fight, there would be potential concern about her because she only got confirmed 55-43 the last time around when she was a federal appeals court judge. But here's the problem. Democrats don't have the votes to stop her. So there really isn't much of an issue there with Amy Coney Barrett at this point. Now, Barbara LaGoya is interesting because she has no record on abortion whatsoever. She's a bit of an unknown. So I think that will probably be a deal breaker for this president. And that's why, as I gave some analysis on the 700 Club, I do believe Amy Coney Barrett will be the pick.
Her Catholic faith, Amy Coney Barrett's, has come up many times, first in her federal appointment in 2017. David, is that going to be an issue? If she were confirmed, there would be 6 Catholic judges among the 9.
Well, Jenna, the Democrats are going to make it an issue, and here's how they're going to do it. They're going to say she's radical on abortion. As a matter of fact, Dianne Feinstein, the last time around in 2017, when she was up in front of the U.S. Senate, Dianne Feinstein is now famously known as saying, right to Amy Coney Barrett's face, she says, "The dogma lives loudly in you," meaning her Catholic faith. And of course, Dianne Feinstein got ripped for those comments. And so we'll see more of the Catholic bashing. That's what they're going to call it, Catholic bashing this time around. But once again, I get back to the point. What can they do? Democrats can't do anything. And Amy Coney Barrett's got a really interesting story to tell. You know, she has 7 children. 2 of them are adopted from Haiti. She also has a child with Down syndrome. She found out that child who has Down syndrome, she found that out when she was doing prenatal testing on the baby before the baby was born, and had the baby regardless. And so, of course, as you might imagine, pro-life groups really like Amy Coney Barrett a lot.
David, the Supreme Court, often referred to as the Marble Palace. Some Democrats have responded to the idea of another Supreme Court nominee there as justification for packing the court and adding more judges. Joe Biden, though, loves the institution and the traditions of the Senate, a place that he spent over 35 years. Is that something you think Joe Biden would ever resort to?
Well, Joe Biden from 1974 or so to 2018, the answer would have been no. The Joe Biden of 2020, all bets are off. I mean, AOC and the liberals are at it, and you know he's got to pay them some favors, if you will, down the road. So look, Joe Biden, no. Does his DNA want to pack the court? Absolutely not. He's on record as saying he doesn't want to pack the court. That was back a little bit about a year or two ago. But nowadays, look, if McConnell does this, which is expected that they're going to put this Supreme Court nomination through quickly, I think all bets are off. He'll be under considerable pressure if he becomes president of the United States to back court packing. And my guess is, in the political climate we're in, he'll probably do it.
David, this race was, interesting from the get-go. How, though, has Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death changed the complexion of this election in these next 6 weeks we have until Election Day?
Well, it's a big, just politically speaking, it's a big boon for the Trump campaign. I don't think there's any question about it. I mean, it's just that simple. There really is no other way to look at it. Democrats are in big trouble because it has given Donald Trump, in essence, a way to galvanize the troops before the election. And I think it kind of focuses people back on something that is extremely important. Remember, COVID-19, so important. We hope, though, that COVID-19 will be a thing of the past in 2, 3, 4, 5 years or so. We'll have it under control, you would think. The Supreme Court lasts a generation, 25 years or more. So this has enormous implications, Jen and John.
Well, David, it certainly gives him the opportunity to change the conversation, something that he's been trying to do for several months now. CBN's chief political analyst, David Brody. David, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, guys.
Meanwhile, a grim new milestone on the coronavirus front tonight. More than 200,000 Americans have now died from the disease. And when it comes to a vaccine, confidence appears to be plummeting. A new survey showing only 13% of Americans say they'd be willing to try one immediately. This comes as the CDC pulls back from guidelines it published last week. Friday, the agency posting that droplets can travel more than 6 feet in some settings, like gyms, restaurants, and choir practices. Monday, though, the agency took that information down, saying it was a draft and posted too early.
And, Jenna, as the U.S. surpasses that 200,000 deaths milestone, the president lays the blame squarely on China. Today, in a recorded speech at the nearly all-virtual United Nations General Assembly, Mr. Trump once again called COVID-19 the China virus.
We must hold accountable the nation which unleashed this plague onto the world, China. The United Nations must hold China accountable for their actions.
The president accused China and the WHO of being guilty of spreading misinformation about the virus's transmission. The pre-recorded address to the United Nations comes amid increasingly tense relations with China over Beijing's handling of COVID-19. Other thorny issues include trade and even espionage.
And joining us now is Emily de la Briere, senior fellow on China issues at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Emily, good to have you. Thank you for joining us. So in his speech to the UN, President Trump, he left no stone unturned. in his tear down of China's handling of the coronavirus. Emily, do you think this is smart diplomacy?
So this is reflective of a larger trend that we're all seeing, which is growing aggression to China and recognition of the threat China poses, as well as with that threat, China's hypocrisy on the world stage. Re smart diplomacy, the question is whether the U.S. is able to move past rhetoric and into concrete, like strategic action, and also whether the U.S. is able to do so in battlefields that, unlike the United Nations, are not co-opted by China.
Emily, the president today implored the UN to hold China accountable for their actions. Those are his words. Are any other countries making similar demands? And what kind of actions can the UN take to censure China's handling of the virus?
So there is absolutely a growing global recognition of China's hypocrisy, of its human rights abuses, especially on the ethnic minority in Xinjiang, of its environmental abuses, of its cover-up of COVID. And we've really seen a massive wake-up. Australia led the charge to a significant degree, right, with Japan, and Europe has been coming on board of late. Can the UN do anything? That's an entirely different question, because China has spent really its time since its accession to the UN gaming the system, making sure that it can buy votes in the UN, that it can create voting blocs in its favor, and that it can claim leadership positions in specialized agencies. And what that risks doing is meaning that this system of multilateral governance, which is supposed to protect global interests and norms, instead ends up serving only China's interests and enabling China's norms.
So President Trump, he used this address to oppose globalization and to promote his America First agenda and foreign policy. It's, of course, not the first time he's taken this tack. The president has spoken before of decoupling from China. Emily, is that the right approach for the U.S.? Your thoughts?
So China absolutely weaponizes its integration. It weaponizes its integration into American and global supply chains, commercial systems, narrative areas like Hollywood, also into the research and development ecosystem and into international governance. And the world needs to protect against that. The problem is that we're not in the same kind of environment right now that we were in during the Cold War. You can't just wake up tomorrow and say we're now decoupled from China, we're out. The world is so integrated, and China in particular is so integrated. And so decoupling broadly and across the board, that's largely a pipe dream. What needs to happen is there needs to be a targeted approach that identifies the key areas and the key areas that China has co-opted and the areas where the U.S. and its allies and partners together have core strengths. And we need to work in those first, in a prioritized strategic fashion, rather than assuming we can just bluntly separate across the board.
Emily, in the final minute we have left, the president also touted the recent peace deals between Kosovo and Serbia, as well as the normalization of relations between Israel, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates. He says the international agreements help the U.S. to fulfill its destiny as a peacemaker. Does that comport with the president's anti-China tone that some have noted makes it sound like the U.S. is looking for a war?
We have this great dilemma right now. There is a global bad actor that has international influence and that is projecting an authoritarian system and norms. And the U.S. has long been a protector of global norms. So what do? Do we go for not stirring up any trouble and appease China? Or do we take a more aggressive stance and try to protect the international system and norms that China is attacking? And that's the question.
Emily, we are out of time. Thank you so much for being with us. Emily de la Bruyere of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies.
Thank you.
And coming up, the U.S. announces a worldwide crackdown on opioid trafficking.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Welcome back. Tonight, a major development in the international war on illegal drugs.
The Justice Department reporting 179 arrests and the seizure of $6.5 million, all associated with the dark net. CBN News national security correspondent Eric Phillips joins us with the story. Eric?
Well, Jenna and John, 120 of those arrests happened right here in the United States, shutting down companies with names like Pill Cosby and Never Pressed. Authorities are hoping this action sends a message that the dark web will not protect criminals.
There will be no safe haven for drug dealing in cyberspace.
The heads of several U.S. enforcement agencies, including the FBI and DEA, together with international partners, announcing the results of Operation Disruptor, aimed at disrupting the national crisis of opioid trafficking. According to the CDC, 67,000 Americans died of drug overdoses in 2018, averaging 1,000 people a week. This operation specifically shining a light on the dark net.
Hiding behind anonymizing software known as Tor, a new sort of drug kingpin now is able to reach more buyers than ever before. These darknet marketplaces have grown in popularity at an alarming rate and allow drug traffickers to openly advertise and take orders from anywhere in the world.
The task force has taken down a number of operations pumping this poison onto the streets, including the powerful and often deadly painkiller fentanyl.
Just 2 milligrams of pure fentanyl is considered a lethal dose. So that means that one 11-kilogram seizure equates to about 5.5 million lethal doses of fentanyl being taken off the streets of American communities where the impacts could have been devastating.
Operation Disruptor, building on the successful takedown of the dark net distributor Wall Street Market last year. The operations becoming increasingly sophisticated, making them more difficult to detect.
We've increasingly found drug traffickers distributing counterfeit prescriptions made to look like pills you receive from your doctor or pharmacies, but with deadly results.
Officials say while they have seen a decrease in deaths related to prescription opioids because of their crackdown on regulations there, they have seen an increase in deaths related to synthetic opioids. And that's why operations like Disruptor are so important. John and Jenna.
Eric Phillips, thank you very much. Up next, the Supreme Court shortlist, how the president is deciding who's in and who's out.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy.
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times bestselling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain. Get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
And welcome back. Well, tonight we go behind the scenes on White House decision-making over a possible Supreme Court nominee.
That's right, Jenna. Even before Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death, administration officials spoke with some of the conservative senior staff at the First Liberty Institute. Our CBN's Paul Strand spoke to one of those leaders.
We're speaking with Kelly Shackelford at the First Liberty Institute, chief counsel there. Kelly, a lot of folks these days are looking for, scrambling around, getting information on potential nominees. What kind of research are you guys doing, and what are you looking for in the record of folks that President Trump might pick?
When President Trump came into office, we established a whole effort on judicial nominations to make sure that there was really extensive research on everybody who's being looked at up and down the courts, because these are lifetime appointments. It's so crucial in these lifetime appointments that we get judges who are not going to stray from the Constitution, who are not going to become politicians and try to put their own beliefs in. We've seen a lot of that from judges, and I know President Trump really wants to make sure that that proper judicial philosophy are the people he is putting on the courts, and he's done a phenomenal job. We have gotten, I think it's 221 now, federal judges confirmed, and this is the best crop we've ever seen in our country.
How does it happen that the White House and you guys connect?
You've got the White House counsel's office that works for the president that does research. You have the Justice Department that does those things, but they've got a lot of things on their plates. Anytime you can provide information for them to make a better decision, because we know the decision they're trying to make, which is something that, we completely agree with. We want judges who are judges, who really do have that blindfold on like Lady Justice, that are going to say, what is the original meaning of the law? What is the original meaning of the text of the Constitution? Not it's a living, breathing Constitution that we're going to sort of imbue into it what we think is right for today. Now, that's for the politicians. And we've had too much of that, and it's caused a lot of politicizing of our courts.
It's a wild moment that here we are less than 50 days from the election. A lot of folks saying, Trump, don't pick somebody. Why should he? Why must he? What's so important about, this particular time in 2020 that we have a full Supreme Court?
I think that's why President Trump won the election. So many people voted on that Scalia seat at the Supreme Court. They wanted the kind of judges that he promised he would appoint. So I think it's only appropriate when the seat opens up now that he do exactly what the voters voted for him to do, which was nominate great people to the court, and let's get the Senate to get that through. And Paul, I think it's even more important right now because we've got an election coming up. There's all kinds of talk about election contests and lawsuits. We need a full court to deal with that. And we also might have some huge cases in the pandemic on religious freedom and the rights of the church. Those are all percolating up. The last thing we want is like a 4-4 tie at the Supreme Court or not having a full court. So I think it's extra important to get that justice on the court and to have a full court in operation.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. Appreciate your time. We've been talking with Kelly Shackelford of the First Liberty Institute.
Coming up, the red kettlebells are ringing early this year. Here's how you can help save Christmas. Next.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Finally tonight, the Salvation Army's famous Red Kettle campaign will look a little different this holiday season.
Instead of red kettles outside grocery stores, the campaign is going virtual. And with the pandemic prompting heavy demand in these trying times, it's launching early this year.
I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true.
Love that song by Lauren Daigle. The campaign will offer a variety of digital payment options. Donations will help those in need with things like putting food on the table, paying bills, and placing gifts under the tree. Since March, the Salvation Army has provided more than 100 million meals and support to struggling Americans. Much needed at this time.
Yeah, they do some amazing work, and they really do help to brighten the season for so many people.
Absolutely.
Well, that's going to do it for Faith Nation.
Have a good night.